Hey beauties, good afternoon to you. So my husband in another life, yeah, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, he's married already. I'm talking about the great, the gifted, talented Lord. I just every time I see him, I have to listen to him. Renato, Cardova, Valentino, what have you, Adams, former SSP, former senior superintendent of police, and I was listening to him. What a fantastic session it was yesterday with Simone. I mean, she did a fantabulous, I mean, splendiferous job with interviewing, one of Jamaica's finest, gifted, fearless, fierce, no nonsense, solid policeman, Mr. Adams. And he said some things that really they were thought provoking, and I laughed at one of it. It reminded me of a former prime minister with one of them. But on a more serious note, he was saying that, let me tell you something, and then I'm just summarizing, I'm putting it in sort of an epilogue for you to get it, that we have to be very vigilant because these criminals are serious. We have to be very vigilant. In his day, I mean, based on his own training and whatnot, this man really, he said, look here, when Simone asked him, I'm going to ask you some questions, basically, do you have any regrets? Could you have done things differently? Do you think you disappointed people? Sort of, it really surrounded that. And he said, no. Because one of the things that people didn't understand about his position, he said, is that he was doing as an agent of the state. So he knows how to separate his personal life from his professional life. So they hire him to do a job once it is lawful, once it is legal. And he said, yes, the only thing that he would probably say is that he wished the criminal elements would just have decided to go on a better path so that their lives basically would not have been stuffed out, And Simone even mentioned something that he said, if he was to be fearful of anyone, it would be more people in his place of employment, put it that way, as opposed to the criminals. Can you imagine that? So he said, he's not fearful of anyone, but if he was to be, it would really be the people, some of the people that he worked with, because I'm telling you, he said that some of them were just, some of them, he knew that some of the police officers who joined were police officers who were criminal elements, basically. They were unseeming. He knew that their motive was not to serve, to protect, and to reassure. It was to just enact justice, or well, I should have said maybe jungle justice, you would call it, which is unfair justice. I mean, you can't say unfair justice, but you know what I mean. It's more revenge, I should say, as opposed to justice, getting back, as well as getting power and people fearing you and so on. So some of the people who join the police force is not to serve, to protect, and to reassure. It's to kill, to steal, and to destroy, really. Sort of a situation. He didn't mention all of these things, but it tantamounts to what he was saying, so he had to be very vigilant, he had to be very savvy, he had to be witty. He couldn't just, the way how he was able to maintain and to do very well was on the basis of being witty. He mentioned that, I don't know if he said it was an unfortunate thing, but that's what I surmised and got from it, the non-verbal cues, the unspoken word that, unfortunately with his family, they can't go to church together, they can't go to the movies together because he has to protect their lives. He doesn't want somebody's vengeance of him for them to enact it against his family. So, it's just one of those consequences, I guess, he has to live with as a former police officer. And, he said that, he was just a man of order, a man of discipline. He said he's a humble man. He can take advice and listen to anybody as long as you come with humility, as long as you come in respect. And I believe him, because sometimes people assume that if you're very extroverted and fearless, that you don't respect authority or you can't take advice. That's not true. Any great leader that you find, they learned from somebody, even if the person is not so good. Look at David. David learned from Saul, Saul trained and guided David, But I think that David just knew everything on his own. Although his father had him out there protecting the sheep, and he had to protect the sheep from bears and lions and so on. He got a lot of advice. That was before Saul's jealousy kicked in. So Saul taught him the ropes, God knows what he's doing, why he exposed him to the palace before he really and truly got into the palace. God exposed him when that evil spirit came upon Saul every now and then. And David went for his harp and played, and it will soothe him. I'm sure that Saul would have, said to him that, boy, David, you're really a good young fellow. When you do this, you will do that. Because they will talk, not if they're good or they're bad. They will share things indirectly and directly. So even, no matter who, great you see a king or a leader is, they were a very good servant and follower. They were a very, very good servant and follower. So Renato said, yeah, man, he listens to people. I know he's a very open and authentic man, though. I believe him, I'm saying don't go with the traditional Christian values as it relates to family. And I know what he's saying, in terms of having multiplicity of women. I mean, he said it in a very coded way. But, for those who are thinkers, got it. And I guess it is what it is. I mean, each man has to run his or her race. And so on. I hope he goes, into the Christian principles. I still believe in one man to one woman and under the auspices of marriage. But, God gives us all choices and volition. Still love and respect him nonetheless, because I know had he been like the commissioner, no disrespect to the one who is here, I don't know him, them the criminal elements couldn't just walk and bark and kick up rumpus the way how they're doing it. They couldn't. They know they could not do it. I remember the story is told, a true one, where he's concerned, like one criminal element. I don't know if he was just trying to jab at him or trying to put some fear in him, but I'm going to come kill you. And wherever he lives, he gave him the correct address and said, sure, come, I will be there about 10 or 10:30. I think it was in the night or day, something like that. He said, come, I'll be here. And I'm sure that he meant it. And I'm sorry for that person or people, if it was more than one. I'm sorry for them. You understand? So I guess sensibility prevailed, and he or she, well, the man didn't show up, or his cohorts. Unfortunately, ladies, although he said something that he said, listen, I want you to understand this. I still have vim. I mean, I'm putting in some of the adjectives. I don't, some of them I may remember, some I don't. But I remember I'm likening it onto the former Prime Minister Edward Seago when they said that basically they were saying because of his age, him not no use. And he just made sure to say, I have vim, vigor, vitality. And Adam said, I have vim, vigor, vitality, energy. My faculties are here, so I'm still a fire. I said, this man really isn't easy at all. But it was a pleasure. It's a pleasure seeing him, and I realize he has his own security firm, something like Adams Security Firm or whatever the name of it is. I'm sure there's some no-nonsense people he has hired, and people who definitely have to do their job the right and proper way. But I wish him all the best. Very, very shrewd and witty man. He's a man who is very careful. He knows how to, he's not been outwitted nor outsmarted by criminal elements, whether they're within or without, so to speak. He was able to charter his course. He says he has no regrets. He could not, when he searched his soul, basically, there was nothing differently he could have done. And he seems as if he would just want to find ways of protecting Jamaica again from the criminal elements. Like he took his job serious, that, Simone was able to get some police officers to give their high commendations to him last evening, and they extended their honor to him, and said it basically, if it wasn't for him, they would be where they're at. He said that, let me tell you something. People talking about this, that, and the third in the negative. He actually asked some criminals, what they thought about him. I don't know if it's him personally had asked, or some other people, and they said, look here, we respect this man. When this man was around, we were so fearful. We know that he was a no-nonsense policeman. He was no sinister person. Anyhow he's coming around, they had to take away themselves. They have to take away themselves. Lift up. Them have to lift up. You understand? Because they knew what the outcome would be. Is either dead or prison. It sounds bad. But, yeah. Do the crime, is certainly going to do the time. Big up to you, Renato, you and your family. May God bless you richly. Guys, follow me on TikTok, subscribe to my YouTube channel, share this message.